Hey, this is Neil Bawa, the mad scientist in multifamily, and you're listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
All right, so welcome. I am super excited about this interview. A couple of the takeaways I got talking with Dustin about multifamily are just what's happening, what's changing. Fixed rate versus some of the challenges with fixed rate is you have prepayment penalties, right? And we've paid millions of dollars in prepayment penalties, but right now anybody who has fixed debt is sitting pretty because they're not having to deal with, working with the variable debt or the shorter term debt that after a couple of years will typically need to be extended or find some new way to be able to manage that property. So really great. Also, we talked a bit about personal development, fitness, some of the other things that go into just making yourself to be a better person. So I really recommend this episode. I think it's a lot of fun. You're going to enjoy it. Just some of his experience that starting in as an engineer and then using those skills to leverage into multifamily. So let's do it here. So welcome to the Mailbox Money Show. My name is Bronson Hill. Multifamily apartment investing is changing. It looks different than it did 12 to 18 months ago. Primarily, it has to do with rising interest rates, which can lead to a lot of pain in the marketplace for investors. It can be challenging to find deals that actually make sense because now rates are higher. But there are people that are finding great deals out there and are still doing deals, and they're doing deals in a conservative way. And so my friend today, I'm really excited about this interview. Dustin Miles, he lives in Dallas, Texas. They've been investing for over 10 years, done over 2,500 units, just tons of experience, and just a really reputable guy. So I'm really excited to have him here today. We're going to talk about the changing nature of multifamily apartment investing. So Dustin, how are you today?
Great. Yeah, I'm excited to be on the show.
Awesome. Good to have you, man. Well, give people a little bit of background. I know we had kind of met through some friends in different ways, connected a couple of times, and then there's a entrepreneurs group that we're a part of called Strategic Coach. And so we were kind of spending some time there and got to hang out in LA not too long ago, which was awesome. But give people a little bit of background about kind of how you got started or kind of what you did before real estate and kind of how you got into real estate.
Yeah, I guess I will take it back to being 8 years old. So, but
It all began with a young boy and a dream, right?
yeah,
How much time do we have?
right, yeah. I'll be brief, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. Little kid, I had a candy business. My bus driver called me the Candy Man. So it was a lot of fun.
Candy man.
Yeah, I didn't eat my profits way either, and I do have sweet. So, but yeah, sold Laffy Taffy, Jolly Ranchers, and can't remember the Blow Pops. There you go.
Now, I got to ask you this. I got to ask you this. Your source of these candies. I remember my grandmother's house. We'd go over in Seattle where I grew up. She had this candy closet, and my siblings, my cousins, they all knew. You just go in there, you go raid the closet, get whatever you want. Did you have a source of free or cheap candy, or did you have to actually go buy your own supplies?
No, yeah. I was pretty sold a lot of candy. I was clearing $50 a week at 8 years old, but
8 years old.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. My mom was like, "Should we charge you rent?" But no, I my parents fronted me the money, and then we went to Sam's, and then I bought. I mean, my whole corner of my room was candy, so I had a ton of candy. But anyways, but yeah, started there, and then I had an internet business. I'm 45, so I had an internet business when I was in college. So that was pretty early on. That's before everybody had a website to give to kind of age me. I sold actually I didn't know anything about them, but I knew I could make money on Pokemon cards. So I wish I would have kept some of them. It's worth a lot now, but I sold Pokemon cards on Yahoo auctions. And you're like, when did Yahoo have auctions? So anyways, but yeah, I did that. And so I did that while I was in engineering school. So I had the kind of had the option of going into business school or engineering school at UT Austin, and chose engineering school. I was paying for my own way to go through school, didn't have a whole lot of money, and then I was working a few jobs and all that. But I like it, wanted to challenge, and I wanted to be able to make money. I thought I'd be able to make money, more money quicker with an engineering degree and all that. So um got in engineering. I didn't like any of my classes. And then I was kind of far enough into, I was like, I gotta you just put my head down and just finish. But and then got into engineering, and as soon as I got in engineering, I was like, this is not for me. And so I started looking around, and obviously real estate, pops up pretty quick. So I started doing single family rentals and flips like 15, 16 years ago. That's how a lot of people start, right? So had some success, but I was like, I'm gonna have to buy like 30 to 50 houses to be able to quit my job and all that. I worked as an engineer at a defense contractor. And so anyways, started looking around, and then got into multifamily. So got into multifamily actually 11 years ago this month. It was I was a KP deal. I was more passive on the deal, but kind of helped with due diligence and all that stuff. But so anyways, yeah, kind of fast forward and all that, I've done a total of 15 syndications that I've put together, and I invest passively, kind of separately as well. But yeah, it's been fun. Definitely learned a lot. When I was starting out, obviously it's very, very different than, I wish I would have bought everything under the sun then. But
Right.
yeah, we are where we are. So
Well, I want to touch base on a couple of things you said. It's interesting. I've met a lot of people that are engineers that are in syndication, and I think there's a lot of Carrie. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But if people to be an engineer, from what I understand, I'm not an engineer, but there's a lot of processes and rules and checklists and understanding kind of what this affects that, and so in a way. And again, there's different types of engineering. Of course, there's civil engineering where you're building, whatever. I mean, there's different types, mechanical, different things, but there's these rules in place, and you follow this process, and you get a certain result, right? So with multifamily, a lot of people that are really good, it's usually I found people that are really good operators. Sometimes they are engineers, or sometimes they're a CPA, or there's some other person that has a high degree of kind of technical learning. How do you feel that's helped you? With being a multifamily operator?
yeah, I think some of that was maybe innate, but I think that engineering definitely helps with processes. And from strategic coach, I'm high on the fact finder.
Yeah.
So all of that definitely plays a part for sure. It's I think it all helps. But it also I think it kind of hindered me initially because analyze, and at some point you gotta just you gotta pull the trigger too. So I think it's maybe initially helped, but then it also I had to learn at what point where's that line where I just have to pull the trigger. So because otherwise you can just fact find and do your due diligence and analyze all day.
Yeah, and you're referencing the test called Colby, not like Kobe Bryant, but like KOLBE, right? The Colby test. It's a great test for anybody that has a business. And this group called Strategic Coach, which if you don't know Strategic Coach, the author has helped create books like Who Not How, The Gap in the Game. There's another one called 10X. These are the 2X. Totally changed my life. And it's really a powerful group. And so anyway, just having I don't know where I was going to go with that, but the idea of having, it was the Colby test. The Colby test has something. So for you have a strength. There's 4 different metrics. It's like data, fact finding, quick start, and I think implementing is the last one. And so you're high. Are you high on the first 2? Or are you high on data and
I can't. I'd have to look
check?
it up.
Yeah,
I
check and
can't
see.
remember. Yeah.
But you're high on data. I'm just kind of okay on data. It's like a 4 or 5 out of 10. But my highest is quick start, right? So it's starting something new, being able to start new things. And we're constantly starting new things. And sometimes it drives my team crazy. But I try to get people around me that are really good data people, and that can really kind of help on different processes of the sides of that. So you talked a little bit about how your story actually reminds me a little bit. Do you know Andrew Cushman?
I know the name, but no.
Okay. He's featured on Bigger Pockets sometimes. He's a multifamily guy. He started as an engineer, and then he did a flip, and he realized, man, I made more money in this flip than I could make, in the whole year as an engineer. This was years ago. So he quit his job like in 2008 or something and started flipping houses. But then he had the same revelation that this is just a lot of work. And if I flip, I can't really scale how I want. So was it really the desire that, you realized that flipping was kind of like, it was another job, and that the only really way to scale was to kind of go after bigger deals?
Yeah, it was that. It was also, initially, there was, I wanted to be able to replace my job and all that, and replace the income there. And then, kind of once you get to a different, once you get to a certain spot, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do in life? And and I really, really enjoy, what we're doing, and I really enjoy the people we're working with, and and the ultimately the investors and the residents that we're serving.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really great too to have something that's like it's a mission, right? We're not just doing this for wealth. We're not just doing it to line our pockets, or that, hey, there's nothing else we could do. It's like, no, we're doing this. We really feel like we're really able to help and serve tenants and communities and make things better. I mean, it's interesting. I've had conversations. I remember there was this Uber ride I had coming back. I was looking at a deal. We bought a deal in Alabama, and I took the red eye, or I took it was like a 1 day flight. It was like a super bliss flight from LA, going and check out this property, and then coming back. We're getting ready to buy it. And then I came back and I had this really awkward ride with like this Uber or Lyft driver. And she was just like, "You're everything that's wrong with the world." Like, kind of the idea of
Oh,
like
wow.
what we do, right? That she's like, "Oh, you do gentrification and you're the reason why, whatever." And so it's just interesting how it's kind of misunderstood, and how people have different views about what we do. But I feel like it's we really do make communities better. The alternative is places get run down and bad actors come in there. You get not like people that aren't good at acting, but people that are drug dealers or whatever. So they come in and they and so I feel like it's very rewarding. Can you give any examples of how you I don't know, like, so maybe some other ways how you help improve communities, or ways you respond to people when they say, "Oh, you're a slumlord," or whatever? Like, is there any like way you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I show them some before and after pictures. I'm like, well, you be the judge, but here you go.
Yeah.
So we do spend, the deals, most of the deals, we're doing now, spend, millions of dollars, and we take a lot of pride in the communities, and so I mean, we're, there's lots of cleanup, that takes place, both physical, but then also the tent base. Sometimes we inherit some folks, like you mentioned, that probably shouldn't have been there, and that's because of, sometimes it's the people that are currently working there before we buy, just don't have as much ownership in the property, or maybe don't care, or maybe they're placed there on a temporary basis and they know they're not going to be there very long. And so and I get it, that's tough to really have ownership in the property if you're about to be shipped out. So but we spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of money. We do a lot of resident events as well. That's really, important to us. One kind of touch that we do, we haven't seen this anywhere else, but we want, if you really think about it, I was talking to someone, we were walking around, I was like, if you think about it, we were walking by some apartments that we owned, and we're like, that how many birthdays were in there,
Yeah.
was a baby born in that one, how many, who came home from a military service in that one, I mean, like, I mean, this is serious stuff. This is
It's
people's
life.
lives,
Yeah.
their homes. So
Yeah.
we take it, super seriously. And then also just kind of, we name, the ones in Houston are named after my son. So I have extra, incentive to make sure that those are looking really good and performing well too.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's great to feel like you have, something you're doing that you're really impacting people's lives, and you're right, life gets to live there and you get to be a part of that. Um, so let's talk about a little bit, multifamily right now looks very different. We're recording this toward the end of September 23, and it's changed a lot. Rates have risen a lot. We're seeing now we're about 18 months in or so from when rates started rising. We're feeling it. We have some capital. We have a capital call. We're seeing. I talked to one investor that said, "Oh, I had 5 capital calls of different deals." Like, we're just seeing lots of different stuff. And obviously, there's a difference between fixed rate deals and those that have bridge debt. But anything value add these days, we're seeing. And I've talked to guys, super great operators in the field. I can mention them by name, but they're just super experienced. Are you seeing? Or I should say, maybe just talk a little bit about kind of what we're seeing right now and how things have changed.
Yeah, there's a few, obviously, interest rates, are playing a part. It's also, honestly, it's a little more right now, it's a little more challenging in Texas operating wise. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but we're definitely seeing a softening. We had rental increases of, 10, 20%, a year or two ago, and that's, come way down. I mean, we're seeing some opportunities, in the market. We're seeing, some people, still, we still, do bridge debt, and we just put a cap on there. But so it's interesting. So I'm not, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong or whatever. We've seen, some people going into fixed debt, but you're going to be, rates are high, so you're going to be, towards the upper end. But we're seeing some interesting opportunities. And like you mentioned, it's we've seen some very experienced, 20 plus 25-year, track record, 10,000, 20,000 units, where they've struggled. And sometimes it's not necessarily on the operations where they've struggled, but they had the wrong kind of loan paired up, or sometimes their timing was just off too. But maybe they didn't buy a 3-year cap, maybe they bought a 2-year cap, and so they're struggling, because of that.
Yeah, no, we're seeing it as well. And I think what you said, in Texas, we're seeing it in Florida with insurance costs have risen, 200 to 300% due to the hurricanes. And we're seeing that kind of in the Southeast in general. We're also seeing costs of labor and materials go up. And rents have risen, but not as much. And so again, you got higher expenses. And for some of these deals, you have costs are going up in every area. Rents maybe a little bit, but they've kind of slowed down, at least in certain areas. And so it's getting more challenging. So it does really, my friend Ken McElroy was saying that this 2023 really is the year of operations. I mean, every year is the year of operations, but especially this year of like, if you don't operate things really well, you're not, it's not going to go well, right? There used to be like between, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but between 2010 and 2020, it seemed like you could kind of do I mean, as long as you didn't like grossly neglect your property, you kind of, for the most part, were okay. And it's just the fact that you were an owner, right? You were a genius if you just own stuff, right? And now, like, we're seeing, like, it's that saying when Warren Buffett, it's only when the tide goes out you see who's been swimming naked, right? And so there's some people swimming naked who we didn't know that, or stuff's happening. And we're seeing, before, it was like people that, like, I mean, there was that Wall Street Journal article about 3200s in Houston, right, where I didn't have any rate cap, and then we're seeing those deals. All those are having trouble. Now it's even people with rate caps, but I think value adds can have some trouble. And do you guys do kind of a mix of bridge debt and with caps, and then also fixed debt, or what kind of stuff do you guys are you working with?
Traditionally, so whenever I started in 2011, 12, 13, everything was all fixed debt. It was 10-year money, and it's interesting. So everybody was doing that, and then up into the getting up to 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, then everyone would start doing floating rate bridge debt. And and then it feels like a lot of people are swinging back the other way. But I've paid, we've had to pay yield maintenance on some of the 10-year money, and it hurts. We had a deal where we paid, the loan was only it was only 4 million. We paid 700 or 800,000 in prepayment penalty. I mean, that's a huge chunk of the loan. And so we did well and could afford on that deal, but I mean, it's it bites you for sure. So we kind of the older deals that have they're all long-term debt. Right now, the newer deals are all bridge debt with caps. So we've been fortunate. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball necessarily where, and we can talk more about that. But it'll be interesting to kind of see where rates roll. So
Yeah, it is. Interesting. We've had some deals too, similarly, like, 2018, 2019, we got some, fixed debt, and then we just, paid millions of dollars in prepayment penalties. So it's kind of for a while, it was kind of like, wow, it's kind of a, what do we do? What do we do? And now it looks like anybody who has, fixed debt, is very smart. And of course, that's kind of what your goal is, either is to sell or refinance into fixed longer term debt. But, it really, I think, comes down to, at least in my opinion, a lot of the value add stuff that I assumed, hey, you're getting a margin of safety by adding value, which is true. But when no one can buy your property because rates are, 9% or whatever they are, they can't, it's just not effective to buy a property when rates are that high. But what do you think about like kind of opportunities going forward? We are seeing some pain in the marketplace. We're seeing some people lose deals or are taking losses on things. What do you think the next, year or two is going to look like? Do you think they're going to see some pretty phenomenal deals like start to become available?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So initially the kind of first wave we saw were deals in rough pockets, rough parts of area, or, so they were in rough pockets, kind of, the deal that you had referenced. And then, the loan that they paired up was not, it was, a higher leverage loan and all that. But then they didn't, I don't know the details of that deal. I wasn't part of it, but, they probably didn't operate, it's really difficult to operate well in some of those tougher pockets. So that was kind of, first wave. Second wave, we're seeing not a ton of deals, but we're seeing deals where they bought 2-year cap instead of 3-year cap. And so we're seeing some of that. But most of the deals that we're seeing are kind of your C-class deals that are in a little tougher parts of town. It's a little tougher to operate. And like you mentioned, for a while, you could just, throw two-tone paint, throw vinyl flooring, and you get $150 rent bump, and those days are gone, and you gotta operate, and it's more difficult, and you're gonna have higher delinquency and bad debt and all that. So those rougher parts of town are, unproportionately, getting affected right now.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing it. Well, what do you see? I know a lot of people that follow this show, the Mailbox Money Show, passive income, are multifamily investors, and a lot of people are concerned about their deals. What do you see? Kind of a lot of it to me has to do with how the Fed will hold rates high. I mean, I think for this month, for September, they decided to kind of hold rates where they are, but they're talking about maybe one more rate increase toward the end of the year. Maybe not, but we're seeing just, there's a lot of exposure to shorter term debt, especially office stuff like that, that's in, these kind of mid-sized banks. Do you see the Fed potentially lowering rates within the next 6 to 12 months, or do you think it's just we're into an era of higher inflation for a long time?
I mean, I'm not an economist, and anytime people make predictions that, they're usually wrong. I thought rates were going to be starting to, find their way down, towards the end of this year. Everything that we'd heard kind of moved in that direction. It sounds like or at least kind of what's being, put in the media, they're talking about higher rates for longer. I feel like personally, maybe they're just wanting to see a little more pain and all that. But it's not only real estate, corporations get loans and things like that, and they have to re-up. And as they're having to re-up at these higher rates, you're potentially going to see more and more layoffs. I know from the apartment, from our leasing and the apartment world, like we had a property where there's a few Amazon drivers, and all of them were let go, all at the same time. I know I have friends in IT that are getting, let go and things like that too. So, there's definitely some hurt in the system, and it'll be interesting. But I feel that, personally, I think rates are going to go down, when it is exactly, but, feels like, sometime, I don't know if it's mid next year, late next year, but I feel like there has to be, some sort of relief. I saw, mortgage applications are at a 25-year low or whatever. So there's a lot of hurt in the system, and the longer this holds, I think potentially the harder that fall is. We follow Pinsford very closely. He's also pretty entertaining, especially if you're a Cowboys fan. But he kind of, his thoughts are, it's they've shown what the rate drop looks like over the last 5 cycles, and it hasn't been a soft landing, at least for the last 5.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Who is this you're talking about that you follow?
JP Conklin with Pinsford.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's
there
too. So
yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, no, I always love hearing people, and when nobody has a crystal ball, nobody knows what's going to happen. In a way, it's good just to be prepared. But I think it is something that there's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of folks, and we're still doing we've got our 2,000 units. We're still doing multifamily. We're excited about it. We're also doing other things. We're doing car washes and ATMs and oil and gas and other things as well. But I think it's I do think I personally think we're just coming into a time where there could be some great deals. You imagine if rates are higher and we start getting some asset price reductions, or there's some kind of fire sale stuff that happens, which could happen just because of the lending. And then eventually things stabilize and rates come down. Well, if you can be a part of that, you could do pretty well, just as we've seen before. But we don't know that rates will come down. We don't know, virus. We don't know some of these things, but I'm seeing some pain in the marketplace for sure. Let's shift gears for a minute here. I want to ask you about, just we have a few more minutes, but talk a little bit about your personal growth and your fitness stuff. And we're both into fitness. You do a lot of lifting. You were talking about some injuries you worked through, but how you're working on stuff. Maybe talk a little bit about kind of the personal fitness as well as personal growth stuff that you're doing personally.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ties, between multifamily or just business in general, and working out and all that. So it's, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of ties there. I mean, it depends on the season. I'm, like you said, I'm working through a few injuries and all that. I love to, I don't know, I wouldn't consider myself a runner. I've played soccer my entire life. But I think run, for a while. I have a run coach and all that, and I was had a ton of miles, or at least for me, not compared to him. But had a ton of miles, and then I'd gotten injured from running. I think in 21, at least for me, this was a lot. I ran 1,300 miles, but and then in 22, I was kind of set to do a half marathon. I was gonna, probably have, pretty decent time, and then kind of got injured. So then I kind of bounced over into lifting, and I'm 45. I had never deadlifted, never back squatted until I was in my 40s. And so that was fun. And then I got injured from that. So but but no, that was very interesting. Just to kind of push yourself mentally, like, you're like, oh, I can only do this. And then you get past it and you're like, oh, what else can I do? And so that's a lot. And same thing with running. There's you think you can only, you can't do that speed or that, distance or whatever, and then you push past and you're like, well, what else can I do? And so I think a lot of that translates, over to business and multifamily. And it's like, for the longest time, all of my deals were like in that $5 to $10 million range. And then I did one that was 15. And then I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then I did one. Yeah. Yeah. And then the next one was 30. I was like, well, that was hard because it was in the middle of COVID. But I was like, okay. And then, you just kind of progress from there. But yeah, gotten a strategic coach, 3 years ago. I've been a part of, it's called ISI. Aaron Walker out of Nashville runs it. I think I've been that for 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. Um, and then I've been a part of Better Life with Brandon Turner. I joined that earlier this year just to,
Mm.
I just want always looking to kind of level up. You think it's huge who you kind of rub shoulders and elbows with and all that. So
Mhm.
always just kind of looking to, go to the, grow and grow and grow and kind of go to the next level. And and always love just kind of rubbing elbows with different folks, getting different ideas, and just trying to grow, and just be a better person. So
Yeah, that's great. I think that's awesome. Well, I really admire, how you've built your business and you've really built your reputation as well as your personal life. You've done very well with that. Before we wrap up, what sort of advice or thoughts do you have for investors like in this season? Here's something to pay attention to, or something that I would be sure to do or to watch out for. Do you have any or any resources you wanted to share?
yeah, I think I would just kind of urge people to be patient. And I've like for instance, my son just started playing soccer. I'm 45. I've played since I was 4. And so I've kind of urged with him, I'm like, look, he just started playing soccer. He hadn't really played before. And I was like, look, you're on chapter 1 of your soccer story. I'm on chapter 40, 41 of my soccer story. Like, I'm going to be able to do things that you can't do. And because I'm 45, I probably won't be able to do some things you can do.
Mhm.
Just kind of be patient and, just, I see, at least for a while when deal flow was more prevalent and all that, it's easy to, look over and, oh my gosh, this guy's doing all these deals, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yes, but how are those deals doing right now?
Yeah.
And so I would just be patient, kind of stick to your guns. And if there's something, at least this has worked well for me, and I don't want to, speak for other people, but if it's something I'm super interested in, I like to hire a coach. And because
Yeah.
I want to go from A to wherever my goal is, I want to go from A to my goal, as quickly as possible, and try to minimize mistakes, try to not be injured. So I don't know, that's something that's worked really well with me. I've had a running coach, or I have a running coach, I've had a weightlifting coach, a health coach, nutrition coach, just anything I want to get good at. I just try to work with some of the best people out there.
Yeah, that's a big deal, man. That's awesome. I love that you're have an attitude of growth, a growth mindset. I think, I've experienced a huge breakthrough in my business when I've committed to personal growth. And it's things like even personally, like therapy or going to, personal development conferences or setting goals or things like that, or even the personal fitness stuff has been huge. So I encourage everybody to do that. Well, appreciate you, man, all the value you're bringing in the multifamily space to your investors, to your communities. How can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you and follow what you're doing?
Yep. My name's, up there, I guess, but I think there's a W if you just, add me on LinkedIn. But yeah, our website's just Momentum Multifamily, and happy to have a phone call, or happy to help any way I can. So I love to try and make connections and things like that. That's fun. So
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, thank you again, Dustin. Appreciate you being here. This was a lot of fun, and appreciate the value you're bringing. And we'll look forward to connecting at probably one of these strategic coach meetings or some other event that we're doing in the near future.
perfect. All right. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks, Dustin. All right, so great interview here with Dustin Miles, stellar guy, great reputation in the industry. It's amazing to me the power of networking, right? We're at an event, we meet, we connect, and maybe we'll do a deal together. You don't know what will happen. So as a passive investor or as somebody who's active, it's so important that we grow our network. It's so important that we're continually trying to connect with other people. One of my big takeaways from this was just really the power of going to events and he mentioned a bunch of different masterminds at the end there that he was involved with, things that he's doing. I'm involved in several masterminds. We have our own that we're starting up. And so just different things that you can do to get in the room with really amazing people, right? And that's what's, I think, really where the magic happens. There's that quote that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who you're spending time with is important. So this is kind of last minute push. Hopefully this episode will come out before then, but October 19th and 20th in Los Angeles, we've got some amazing speakers, the Advanced Real Estate Investing Summit, David Green from the Bigger Pockets podcast. We've got Ken McElroy, Neil Bawa, Mark Moss, just a stellar lineup, 1.5 day event in LA. People are flying in from all over the country, from the East Coast, wherever, to come and join this. So join us there. The website is aresummit.com, aresummit.com. Would love to see you there. It's going to be phenomenal. So thanks for taking the time to educate yourself. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show.
You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.